The soft April sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of the 36th floor penthouse, painting delicate golden streaks across the polished wooden floor. Somewhere in the distance, a vintage clock chimed gently into the quiet. In the sleek, modern kitchen, a young woman stood still, stirring a cup of hot cocoa as if trying to draw meaning into the swirling surface. Anna Reyes, 28 years old, with loose brown hair, a kind face, and eyes full of quiet dreams, was once a music teacher at a small public school. But after being laid off in a round of budget cuts, her life took a turn no one saw coming. She became a nanny for a wealthy Manhattan family. The job wasn't glamorous, but Anna had found something warm and grounding in it, especially in 6-year-old Lily, a brilliant, mischievous little girl who melted Anna's heart every time she called out, "Miss Anna." Mornings in the Carter household started with giggles, the smell of freshly baked muffins, and the bright sparkle in Lily's eyes that reminded Anna she was still alive, even if it was in a life she didn't quite belong to. Lily's father, Julian Carter, was a tech entrepreneur with a towering reputation and a guarded soul. Since the death of his wife, the penthouse had lost its warmth. All that remained were cold glass walls and an endless stream of meetings, emails, and scheduled silence. Anna never crossed the line. She listened, cared, and always stayed in her lane. But every time Julian entered the room, with his quiet gaze and tailored charcoal suits, something inside her stirred, a forbidden flutter she buried deep beneath duty and propriety. This morning was just like any other, or so Anna believed. What she didn't know was that within a matter of hours, Julian would make her an offer so outrageous, so unexpected, that her life, every part she thought was safe and settled, would be turned upside down. Anna was sitting on the living room floor reading to Lily when the ringtone echoed from Julian's office. The little girl quickly scampered off toward her father's voice, while Anna remained in place, her eyes drifting to the slightly ajar oak door. She could hear his calm, clipped tone and traces of Japanese woven between the English. The call lasted no more than 5 minutes, but when Julian stepped out, something in his face had shifted. He said nothing at first. He walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and sat down on a stool staring silently at the floor. There was something about the stillness in his body that made Anna hesitate to speak, even though every instinct in her screamed something serious had just happened. After a long pause, Julian lifted his gaze and met hers. "Anna," he began, his voice oddly composed, "I'm about to ask something that will sound completely insane, but I need your help." She froze. "Help? With what?" Julian stood up and began pacing, as though rehearsing the request in his mind before voicing it. "Mr. Saito, a key investor from Japan, is flying in next week to finalize a multi-million-dollar deal. He's old-fashioned, believes a man with a stable home life is more trustworthy in business." Anna still didn't understand. "And what does that have to do with me?" Julian stopped. His eyes met hers directly. "He believes I've remarried, believes Lily has a new mother, and I didn't correct him." A heavy silence filled the kitchen. "Would you be willing to pretend to be my wife for a week?" Julian asked, his voice gentle but his gaze unwavering. "Just for a few dinners, some social appearances, walking into rooms beside me, nothing more." Anna was stunned. Her heart pounded, not from excitement, but shock. "You're serious?" "Very." "Why me?" Julian hesitated. "Because I trust you, because Lily adores you, and because anyone looking at us would believe it." Her cheeks flushed. That sentence sounded like a compliment, like a confession wrapped in professionalism, and like a step over a very dangerous line. "And," she lowered her voice, "if I say yes, how much would you pay?" He named the amount, and Anna forgot how to breathe. It was enough to cover her mother's heart surgery, enough to restart her graduate studies, enough to just once say yes to a chance, even if it came wrapped in madness. That afternoon, Anna sat in a luxurious dressing room, warm golden lights reflecting off rows of dazzling evening gowns hanging around her. A makeup artist was dabbing blush onto her cheeks, while another gently adjusted the soft curls just set into her hair. Everything had happened so quickly it felt like she was watching someone else's dream unfold. "This is insane," she whispered, staring at her reflection. Clara, Julian's razor-sharp personal assistant, smiled as she placed a pair of cream-colored heels on the carpet. "No, this is opportunity, and you're rising to it beautifully." Clara, who Anna had always assumed was distant and cold, had become an unexpected ally in her transformation. Over the next 3 days, Clara coached her with the precision of a drill sergeant. From how to hold a wine glass just so, how to shake hands with confident grace, to learning a few essential Japanese phrases to impress the investors, Anna absorbed everything. She learned how to walk with posture, how to smile just enough, and how to hold eye contact without flinching. "Mrs. Carter doesn't bow her head," Clara emphasized. "She's smart, elegant, and utterly poised." Anna laughed. "Sounds like a character in a play." "It's not a role. It's the strong version of you that's been hiding." By the 4th day, Julian entered the living room where Anna was practicing sitting gracefully in an evening gown. He paused for a moment, quietly observing her, as if seeing her for the first time. She lifted her head too, and for the first time, she didn't look like the nanny. She looked like someone who belonged beside him. "We need to finalize our story, how we met, how we fell in love," Julian said, taking a seat beside her. "You start," she replied, nerves fluttering, yet unable to look away. Julian explained. They met when she was hired as Lily's music tutor. Over the months, they grew close. They kept things private, and after a year, they married quietly in a private ceremony. Every word he spoke was smooth, believable, and somehow too real, making her chest ache. "And public displays of affection?" she asked softly, her cheeks warming at the thought. Julian hesitated, then smiled. "Holding hands, a kiss on the cheek, and—" He leaned in, brushing his lips gently against her cheek. It was a simple gesture, feather-light, yet it sent tremors down her spine. Anna closed her eyes for just a second, not to pretend, but because she didn't want the moment to end too quickly. The black limousine glided silently through Manhattan's glittering streets. Inside, Anna sat quietly beside Julian, her silk sapphire gown hugging her figure in a way that looked effortlessly elegant. So much so, she hardly recognized the woman staring back in the rearview mirror. Her hands rested lightly on her lap, gloved in white satin, trembling only slightly, the only sign of the storm brewing inside. "You okay?" Julian asked, his voice low and warm. Anna nodded, managing a smile. "If this is a dream, I hope I don't wake up halfway through." Julian chuckled softly. "If it is, then let's dream it together." Rosewood Plaza appeared ahead, the hotel hosting the welcome reception for the Japanese investors. Marble steps led into the grand foyer lit by dazzling crystal chandeliers, their light dancing off champagne flutes and couture gowns. Julian stepped out first, offering his hand like a true gentleman. Anna took it, trying not to let her nerves show. As they entered the foyer, someone called out, "Mr. and Mrs. Carter!" Anna smiled instinctively. Julian's hand gently rested at the small of her back, just enough to make everyone believe this was real. "Mr. Saito," the lead investor approached with a warm smile. "It's a pleasure to finally meet your wife, Mr. Carter," he said in clear, practiced English. Anna bowed politely, her eyes composed, though her nerves fluttered beneath the surface. "Anna, this is Mr. Saito," Julian said, keeping his hand casually at her waist as if it belonged there. "It's an honor to meet you," she replied, her voice calm but steady. "Julian's told me so much about your incredible projects." Saito's smile widened. "Your wife has a lovely grace, and clearly your deep affection for her shows." Julian turned to her. "She's the light in my life." Mary's heart skipped a beat. That line? Too real, too close, too dangerous. Throughout the evening, they played their parts seamlessly. Shared glances, quiet laughs, soft touches. Anna could feel Julian's gaze on her like a thread, holding them together amid a sea of strangers. At the dinner table, as wine was poured, Julian gently steadied her glass. "Careful, you always nearly drop it," he whispered, only for her. Anna laughed. partly for show, partly because she wasn't sure it was just a show anymore. Things went so smoothly she almost forgot it was all pretend. But the moment that truly rattled her was when one of the investors' wives asked, "When did you first meet Julian? Was it love at first sight?" Anna froze, but Julian stepped in effortlessly. She came to tutor Lily, and from the first moment I knew she wasn't like anyone I'd ever met. She looked at him then. His eyes hadn't left hers, and in that gaze, there was something that didn't feel like acting at all. On the ride home, they didn't speak much, but it wasn't awkward. It was a quiet filled with meaning, with things neither dared say aloud. "Thank you," Julian murmured, his voice husky. "Tonight, you made me believe we really are husband and wife." Anna turned away, hiding the trembling smile on her lips. She wished it were true. The following days passed in a rhythm that felt both surreal and dangerously comforting. Their schedule was packed: lavish dinners, investor meetings, gallery visits, theater nights, all carefully curated to present them as the perfect couple. And they played their roles so well, even Anna began to forget it was all pretend. Each morning began with Julian gently knocking on her door, inviting her to breakfast with him and Lily. Each night ended with them reviewing small details: their love story, the names of fake mutual friends, their wedding anniversary. But in between the rehearsals, there were silences, long gazes from Julian where he seemed to search for something. Not in her answers, but in her. One afternoon, after a walk through the park with Lily, Julian invited Anna to a quiet cafe near the penthouse to take a break from pretending, he said. They sat in a dim corner, golden sunlight catching the strands of her hair like a soft halo. "Tired?" Julian asked, his voice no longer that of a CEO, but of a man truly concerned. "A little," Anna smiled gently, "but it feels good. Maybe because it's all so beautiful." Julian paused for a moment, then said softly, "I keep forgetting this is temporary." Anna looked up, her heart skipping. "Me too." The words slipped out before she could catch them. They stared at each other, and for the first time, what lay between them wasn't duty or a business deal. It was something unspoken, something fragile, undeniable. They were starting to feel. That evening, alone in her room, Anna opened her phone and stared at a photo of the three of them at the museum. Julian was laughing. Not his usual polite smile, but a genuine one, full of light, and she knew then she had fallen in love. Not because he was handsome or successful, but because of how he looked at Lily, how he listened without interrupting, how gently he fixed her dress strap that one time it slipped from her shoulder. The next day, they attended a private dinner party hosted by a friendly investor. When Julian helped her step out of the car, their hands brushed. And for the first time, Anna wasn't thinking about the role. She was thinking about the feeling. Throughout the evening, their eyes met across the table, again and again, and during a slow ballad as they danced, Julian leaned in and whispered, "You know, sometimes I forget this isn't real." Anna smiled, but inside, her heart ached. Because so did she. "So do I," she whispered, not quite meeting his eyes. On the ride home, neither of them spoke, but Anna knew. The thin line between pretending and feeling had been completely, irreversibly crossed. Night fell faster than usual. Anna was walking slowly through the golden-lit hallway of the penthouse, about to grab her coat and settle down with Lily for bedtime reading, when she passed the library. The door was ajar, and Julian's voice slipped out, clear and calm. "Yes, everything's going exactly as planned," he said. "She plays the part so naturally, like it's real. Everyone believes I've remarried. Mr. Saito is more than convinced. I couldn't have asked for a better actress." Anna froze. That one word, actress, shattered everything. She walked away without a sound, each step heavier than the last. Her vision blurred, her heart thudding against her ribs like a drum of betrayal. Inside her room, she leaned against the closed door and cried, quietly, bitterly, helplessly. It was all pretend. The smiles, the glances, the gentle way he touched her back, the warmth in his eyes at dinner. Nothing had been real, except her feelings. That night, Anna didn't sleep. She sat at the small desk, only the lamp casting a faint circle of light. With trembling hands, she wrote, not with logic, but with a heartbreaking word by word. Anna's letter. Julian, I'm writing this because it's too late to say it out loud. Maybe you'll never even read it. Maybe it'll just be a piece of paper left behind, like me. I thought I was strong enough not to hope for anything, that I could pretend, play the role, finish the deal, and walk away untouched. But I was wrong. I let my heart wander. I don't blame you for not loving me. We can't be blamed for feelings we don't choose. What I can't forgive is being used. Hearing you call me a great actress, like everything I felt was just good performance, that broke something I don't know how to put back together. You'll never know how many times I had to stop myself from reaching for your hand, from answering the way I wanted when you said we made a good couple. I told myself I could keep the memory of this week as something beautiful, but now I know it only ever mattered to me. I love you, Julian, even though I shouldn't, even though I knew from the start I didn't belong in your world. I love you for how you look at Lily, with the kind of gentleness that makes everything else fade. I love the way you let me walk beside you, without rushing, without forcing. I love you not because you're perfect, but because you're quietly, heartbreakingly human. But I have to go, not because I want to, but because if I stay, I will break in silence while still pretending to be okay. Thank you for letting me live in a beautiful lie, even just for a while. I won't blame you. I only hope, for one moment, you felt something real too. Goodbye, Anna. The next morning, the sky over Manhattan was a heavy gray, and I placed the letter carefully on the bedside table. She packed only what she needed, a few clothes, one photo with Lily, and her worn music theory book. As she flipped the pancakes in the kitchen one last time, Julian entered. He looked calm, unaware of the emotional wreckage that had unraveled overnight. Good morning, he said, taking his usual seat. Anna nodded, keeping her tone even. Coffee or tea? Coffee, he replied, watching her closely. Anna, is something wrong? You seem different. She paused, then turned to face him, eyes steady. Nothing's wrong, Mr. Carter. My role has ended. Julian blinked. What? The 1-week agreement is over. You got your contract. He stood, moving toward her. Anna, what are you saying? Why are you... I heard your call last night, she said sharply. Heard you call me an actress, part of the plan. Julian paled. No, it's not what you think. Isn't it? Her voice cracked. Then why do I feel like the biggest fool alive? She stepped back, not letting him reach for her. Thank you for reminding me that hearts don't belong in fairy tales. She turned and walked away, leaving Julian standing in the kitchen, hands at his sides, eyes hollow, and a loss in his chest he never knew he was capable of feeling. That afternoon, Anna was helping Lily tidy up toys in the garden when Julian stepped outside, holding a cream-colored envelope in his hand. You left this on the bed, he said, voice noticeably softer. Anna recognized the letter, her quiet goodbye from the night before. She stood up, her eyes steady, unwavering. You were going to leave without a word? He asked, the confusion and pain evident in his eyes. I thought words were no longer necessary, she replied, voice calm but cold. Julian gripped the envelope tightly. You heard that call. I know, but you misunderstood everything. Anna pressed her lips together. Then say it, explain it. How do you call me an actress and then say you love me? Julian took a step closer, his voice trembling. I was talking about the business part, how we convinced the investors, but my feelings, they were never part of the act, not for a single moment. She didn't answer. The wind rustled through the rose bushes behind her, petals swaying like hesitant hearts. I tried not to feel anything. I really did. But I couldn't help it. The way you smile at Lily. The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Everything about you is real, painfully real. He reached out a hand but pulled it back as if afraid she'd recoil. I love you, Anna, truly. Not for the role you played, for who you are. She gave a faint laugh, tears finally escaping. Hot and unchecked. I wanted to believe that, she whispered. But then I heard you speak like I was just part of a strategy. Julian stepped forward again, more firmly this time. You're not a strategy. You're the only thing that's made me feel alive in years, and if you walk away now, I don't know if I can take it. She met his gaze, her guard slowly dropping. Then prove it, Anna said, her voice steady. Prove that this wasn't all just a setup, that you don't just need me for a deal, you need me for me. Julian nodded slowly. I will, in every way I can. But first, I need you to believe just one thing. He inhaled deeply, like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. I love you, Anna Reyes. Not the pretend wife, not the character in a performance, the woman who made me believe after all my losses that I could fall in love again. Anna said nothing. She simply closed her eyes and let the tears fall, this time not from pain, but from hope. Just when Anna thought everything was either about to fall apart or finally come together, one last test appeared. Julian received a sudden call from Mr. Saito. One of our key investors, Mr. Yamazaki, has just arrived unexpectedly in New York. He'd like to meet you and your wife tonight before signing the final contract. Julian hung up, eyes wide, his hand clenching instinctively. He's the toughest one, Julian said. He doesn't believe in facades. If something feels off, he'll know. Anna swallowed. So, we pretend again? Julian shook his head. No, he said slowly, not this time. No more pretending. If we have a chance, it has to be real. That evening, they welcomed Mr. Yamazaki into the apartment's library. He was a slender man with silver hair and eyes sharp as glass. His translator sat beside him. Julian and Anna sat across, hands lightly intertwined. The conversation began gently, pleasantries, polite thanks. Then came the question, through the translator. You come from very different social backgrounds. Has that caused tension in your marriage? Anna felt her breath catch. This was it. She squeezed Julian's hand slightly, then looked up to meet the investor's gaze. Yes, she said clearly. I used to be Lily's nanny. I don't come from this world, but I believe love doesn't depend on status. Julian taught me about business. I taught him how to feel again. Julian tightened his grip on her hand, pride shining in his eyes. Anna's right, he added. I didn't fall for her because of where she came from. I fell because she brought my world back to life. She's the most real thing that's ever happened to me. Mr. Yamazaki remained silent for a long moment. Then, he smiled. Thank you for your honesty, the translator conveyed. We look for business partners, yes, but above all, we look for people who still know how to love with a true heart. Julian and Anna looked at each other, and for the first time, the fear was gone. They had laid everything bare, and were accepted not for what they pretended to be, but for who they truly were. That night, as they sat together, no more lies, no more pretending, something fragile and brave took root. Not everything had healed, but something new had begun. 6 months had passed. Spring had returned, casting soft golden light through the tall windows of the penthouse. The space, once cold and echoing, now pulsed with life. Soft music played in the background, the scent of fresh pastries floated in the air, and the joyful laughter of a 6-year-old girl filled the kitchen. Anna stood at the counter, carefully decorating a cake, while Lily, perched on a step stool, sprinkled colorful sugar on the frosting. Julian stood in the doorway, coffee in hand, watching the two girls who had become his whole world. Anna was no longer the quiet nanny. She was part of this home, not just the rooms or the routine, but the heart of it. Mommy, is it pretty? Lily asked, eyes sparkling with pride at her handiwork. Anna leaned down, kissing her on the cheek. It's perfect, my little princess. Mommy, Julian called as he walked closer and took her hand gently. You just called her your princess. Anna laughed. Because she is. She's mine. Has been for a while. Julian nodded. And you're mine. In that moment, everything that had once been fake, negotiated, or rehearsed vanished. They sat down together, sharing the cake, laughing at silly jokes, basking in the simple joy of each other's presence. Every day since Anna had chosen to stay had been calm, not perfect, but real. Anna's mother had undergone successful heart surgery and was recovering well in Vermont. Every weekend they'd video call her, with Lily always fighting to speak first. Grandma, look, I helped Mommy bake a cake. No more distance, no more hesitation. They were a family. That evening, once Lily had fallen asleep, Julian led Anna to the balcony, where strings of fairy lights glowed like stars above them. I have something to ask you, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Anna froze, her hand covering her mouth. Last time we were performing a role, but if you say yes this time. He opened the box, a simple, elegant ring that shimmered with sincerity. This time, it's not a performance. It's forever. Anna didn't speak. She only nodded, tears falling in a quiet smile. Julian slipped the ring onto her finger and wrapped her in his arms. Inside, Lily turned in her sleep, still smiling, as if dreaming something beautiful. And in truth, they weren't just living a dream, they had chosen it. Not perfect, not scripted, but real. Every day, every smile, every moment chosen, together,